Well, thank you so much for being here. This is a great day for Richmond Athletics and the University of Richmond. We are here today to introduce our new baseball coach, Tracy Woodson, and we are so excited that Tracy is here. It's amazing. We had a very good pool of candidates in our search, and Tracy rose to the top. And when you think about all of the factors, all the characteristics that we were looking for in a baseball coach, Tracy embodies those. When you think about leadership and the things that he's done through his career, he's been successful at all levels of baseball. He's coached at all levels of baseball, and he's won at all levels of baseball. Won a World Series. He's been a Major League Baseball player with the Dodgers, World Series champs, and then done a great job as a collegiate coach. And I think one of the things also that really impressed me about Tracy was the fact that he also finished his degree while he was coaching with his team. He set a great example for those players in terms of the value of education, the importance of education, and that's really important to us at Richmond. And we also want to win, and he's done that as well. So we are so excited to have Tracy, to have his family, and to welcome him back to Richmond. So because he is from this city, he grew up here, he played baseball here, and it's great to have him back coaching for the Spiders. So with that, I just want to say welcome to Tracy.
Thank you. I'll try it on, I won't keep it on.
So looks like a perfect fit.
First of all, I want to thank Keith Gill, the University of Richmond, for having me and giving me this great opportunity. I'm very excited to come home. This is probably one of the bigger deals that I had when we left here 7 years ago. My wife made a statement to family and friends that said we will be back to Richmond. Didn't know how long it was going to take, didn't know in what capacity, but this is a capacity that we are definitely excited about. I'd like to thank my wife. She can't be here today. She's actually selling the house, getting it ready for sale, and she will be here with my two children very soon. And you will see us at every event. That's one of the things I preached to my players when I was at Valpo. It's about getting other student athletes out to your games. So we were at volleyball games, men's and women's basketball games. I'm not even a soccer fan, and we were at men's and women's soccer games. But and I want my kids to be around that. I've marked I don't know, September 6th or 7th at NC State. That my family will be in Raleigh for the football game. So you will see my family around a lot. I want to thank Bruce Matthews and Bob Black as well for their help during the interview process. It was a great process. I met a lot of good people. You know, growing up in Richmond, I used to come down the windy road to the University of Richmond, and it would take me to the Robbins Center or Pitt Field, and that's the only places I ever went. We would sneak into the Robbins Center down at Millheiser and play basketball with the guys at Benedictine. But going through campus, it's beautiful. I never imagined the campus being like that, the trees, and so it's a great place, I think, to bring recruits here and sell. The academics, they're second to none. You know, I had that opportunity at Valpo to be able to recruit academic kids as well, and now I'll be able to do that as well here. Valparaiso University was great for me. I want to thank Mark LaBarber for the chance he gave me. It was a great opportunity for me to go back into coaching. I'd been out for 2 years. I was itching to get back to coaching. I love working with kids, communicating with kids, have them walk into my office, ask me questions about anything. And there were 8 seniors on that team, and they were in my office every day talking about big league baseball. These kids were far from going to be playing in the major leagues or even the minor leagues, but they wanted to know what it was like, and seeing it on their face when they asked questions. They asked me some questions I never imagined I would be asked, but I tried to answer it for them. And that's what I want these players here to be able to do, to come into my office with my door open all the time to talk to me about baseball, academics, whatever it may be. The interview process, like I said, was fantastic. You know, the first question my wife asked me was, did you like it? And I said I loved it. Like I said, the academics, the campus. My biggest and probably favorite part of it, I met with 2 players, and I had a conference call with 5 or 6 other players on the phone call. And they asked me, you know, what's your philosophy? You know, how do you handle this situation? The first thing I said, when the doors close and I'm with my team, they're going to know who's in charge. I'm going to run a program. I'm going to set out a plan for them. They're going to understand where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be, how things are supposed to be done. But I think kids at this age, they want guidance, they want to work, and they want to get better. And that's going to be my staff's job. My job is to develop those players and make them better. Recruiting, I'm going to hammer this state. I'm going to hammer this city. I'm going to hammer every high school coach in this area. They will meet with me. I'll meet with them. I need their help. I mean, I need players to go out and spread the word here. They're part of the recruiting process as well. For them to go back home during their break at Christmas or Thanksgiving to say, gosh, this is a great program. This is a great campus. The new coaching staff is wonderful. That's what we need. And then we need to identify the talent, the kids with the grades, the kids that have the talent, and get them here to Richmond. If I can get them on campus, I can sell it. I know I can. I know my staff can. They've already looked online at everything they can, so my staff knows what to say to these student athletes to get them here. And then once they get them here, I think we can sell it. The one other thing is the alumni. 3 guys that I played with in high school, one of them's here today, and I want to thank everybody. Coach Gilman and Coach Atkins, thank you very much for being here. 3 players that I played with played at Richmond, and I want them back. I want them back in the program all the time. A couple other guys that followed me at Benedictine played here. It's about getting the people back involved and getting excited, setting up different events, whether it's golf outings for the alumni, special days here during the season. It's getting these guys back excited about what we're trying to do. We're going to win here. I'm going to tell you that right now. People said I was crazy when I said it at Valpo. If you'd have gone there, the stadium's not great. The facilities are not very good at all. I walk out here and look at Pitt Field. It's not that bad. It's going to get better. We're going to do things a little bit at a time. It's going to get better. But what I had at Valpo and what we were able to bring in, I know I can do better here. We won twice there, and people thought I was crazy for taking that job and said you're going to a dead-end situation. And they've got a pretty good foundation right there, and I hope they're able to keep that going. But my expectations are always high, and I'm setting them high here. I'm not going out on a limb and saying, you know, we're going to knock Virginia out of a super regional. I'm not going to say that. I won't say it right now. I may say it later, but I'm not going to say it right now. But we're going to be competitive. We're going to play good schools. I haven't looked at the full schedule this year. I hope I can make some changes if things are not cemented in cement already. But we're going to play good teams here. We're going to play good teams on the road. We're going to give ourselves not just a chance. The expectation is to win the Atlantic 10 every year. The expectation for me is build the RPI. Let's get an at-large bid. Let's be good enough. Coach Atkins had those teams in the 90s, top 25. That's where we want to be right now. And it may take a year, it may take 2 years or whatever, but that's what our aim is for. So that's what I want to do. That's my expectations. And listening to those players, I'll go back to that meeting. Listening to those players talk about we're a pretty good team. We got pretty good arms. We've got pretty good defense. They were reaching out for some leadership that wants to come in and work with them, and that's what I want to do. So once again, I'm excited to be here.
Open up for questions.
Hey, Tracy, you mentioned your staff. Do you have guys in mind already, or you're searching?
Right now, I've got everybody but my pitching coach. I will say Matt Tyner is going to be my #1 assistant. He was the assistant coach at Butler for 7 years. He's the head coach. He just resigned at Bellarmine College in Division II school in Louisville. Once again, you got 2 great academic institutions, and Bellarmine is not one of the top D2 baseball programs. He was 1 win away from the D2 World Series this year. He's from Charlotte, a lot of ties to the Carolinas and Virginia. So that was, to me, an easy choice. I am keeping Tanner Biagini on staff. He will be back as the volunteer. The pitching coach right now is there's a couple guys I still have to interview. I wanted to keep somebody within the program, and Tanner was definitely one of those guys. I played against his dad a lot in professional baseball.
Tracy, Hank Kurz with the AP. The college game seems to suit your mindset. You've got a lot of fire. What's the difference to you in coaching in college versus coaching professionally?
Well, I'll say this. I've had fire since day one whenever I played. Listen, I couldn't run, but I was diving all over the field. I'd take the extra base. That's what I like teaching. And when you get younger kids, they don't understand that part as much as the older kids. You know, managing AA was great. When I got to AAA, it got a little bit harder. Those guys think they belong in the big leagues all the time. Listen, in AAA, I thought I belonged in the big leagues, but I still played hard. And that's the young kids soak that up. And when I can sit there and tell them firsthand experience that this is what I did, I couldn't run, but if I saw the center fielder going to right center field to get a base hit, I'm going to third base. So that's what I want to do. I will never tell any student athlete to do something I haven't done. So they will know once I get out there, when I give an example, I've done it. And then hopefully they'll respect it. I think they're going to buy in. These kids were soaking it up that day. It was the meeting I had was awesome with them. The guys even on the conference call, you could hear it in their voice. Great, that's great, that's great. After a question was answered, they were saying that's great. And I've gotten a number of emails, a number of calls from the players right now. I've contacted all 5 kids that would be coming in this year in the recruiting class, and they're excited. So a lot of times, all the time, a change is a good thing. At Valpo, it worked great. It took me a little bit longer than I had hoped. I said I was going to win, and it took me a little bit longer than I thought, but this is a more established program. And, Valpo was at the bottom of everything. They hadn't won in a winning record in 12 years. They hadn't been to the tournament in 44 years. That's not the case here. So I think there's more to work with to start from.
You suggested facility improvements. Do you have a vision?
I've got a vision. I hope Keith's got the same vision. No, listen, I understand. When I walked in, I was here a couple years ago when this football stadium was built. You see what they're doing to the Robbins Center now. I think baseball is right down the road. And, when you look at the campus, Keith and I talked about it, and I don't know if people think I'm crazy. That Pitt Field is 20 times better than what I had at Valpo. We had a great locker room, clubhouse, and all that, but it was a high school field. I had to do improvements on it myself, raise the money to put up a new fence, a new dugout, just to make it presentable. So people don't understand that part. There was a lot more than just coach. I probably did more stuff off the field than I did on the field. So we've talked. I mean, there are some things, and we understand the alums. This field back in the 90s was probably great, and other people have done upgrades. But hopefully it's going to take time. It won't be too much time.
Keith, is baseball just down the road?
We certainly hope so. I mean, we've got some ideas, we've got some plans in terms of how to improve the surface, how to improve the game atmosphere, the game presentation, and the game management. So those are things that we've been really talking about over the last 7 months. I can't really give you a timetable for that, but I do think baseball is certainly on our radar in terms of facilities improvements, and we've got a kind of a plan for it, and hopefully we'll be able to get that activated sooner rather than later.
Tracy, how does this affect your basketball officiating side job?
Oh, I didn't know about that. No, we've talked about it. I may do it for one more year. We'll see. We're going to talk about that. Coach Mooney's actually here today, so I will not miss any more calls in his games. Being in the Atlantic 10, I will not be able to referee in the Atlantic 10. So, but that's okay. So, yeah, that's being discussed.
Could you talk about the challenge of coming into a locker room or a clubhouse and trying to develop a rapport and respect with players who've been here, but you're the new sheriff in town, so to speak?
It's not as difficult, really. I went to Valparaiso, and they had a JV program at the time. I had 5 coaches. We had 64 players when I went in. And it's basically calling each one in the office and telling them who I am, explaining it, finding out who they are. I think my biggest asset is communication with kids. I can deal with them. I can talk with them. I love talking baseball about it. Anything. These guys come in and say, what was it like doing this? I know when these guys strike out, I understand it. Pat them on the rear and say, hey, tomorrow you're going to get 4 more at-bats. I struck out in front of 60,000 people before. Listen, it's not that big of a deal. Taking the ball, when I go to the pitcher's mound, I take the ball from the guy, and he's given up 8 runs in 4 innings. You pat him on the rear end, you're going to get the ball back in 6 days. I do not make, it's not where the first impression of pitching in a game. I know who can pitch, who can't. There's some days you're just not going to have good days, but these kids will know where I'm coming from. Things that I say are going to happen. I'm not going to lie to the kids. It's the way I was at Valpo. I told kids that certain kids were not going to be on the varsity, and basically they liked that because previous guys are telling them if you work hard, you may get here. That's not the case. It's not may. It's got to be. If you tell them they work hard and you're going to give them that opportunity, it's got to happen. So the rapport I have with the kids will be great. I think they're going to understand because my staff's going to have a lot of background. Matt Tyner was an All-American hitter at Miami of Florida. That's got a lot of weight. He's been at 2 great academic institutions the last 9 years. That's got a lot of weight. You know, I played the big leagues. I played in the minors for a long time. The travel's not great. I understand what a 9 or 10 hour bus ride is. So I can tell them I'm going to, you know, take care of them. I'm going to treat them like a Division I athlete. That's one thing. When I went to Valpo, I said, listen, we're not staying in Days Inns, and I hope Days Inn's not a university sponsor. We're staying at Marriott's. We're going to stay at nice hotels, get good rates. We're going to stay at good hotels. We're going to eat good. We're not eating fast food. We're going to treat them like a Division I baseball player. So that's how I want to do it.
When your players asked you what kind of style you have, you know, best case scenario, if you could pluck everything and put it in place, what would your style be?
All right. Well, when I first went to Valpo, I was a hitter. First thing I looked at, which way was the wind blowing out? Because if it's blowing out, I'm loving it as a hitter. When you coach and you manage, it's all about pitching. And if you don't pitch, you're not going to win. And I learned that very fast. In the last 4 years, we had the top pitching staff in the Horizon League every year. You throw strikes, and you catch the ball, and you make plays. You can't afford pitchers throwing 15 to 20 extra pitches. You can't give them 2 extra outs an inning. So we're going to be hopefully pitching strong, defense strong, and then I got to find guys that can score runs. Whether we manufacture them, hit and run. I like to hit and run. I like steal. If we got a bunt to score runs, that'll happen. Hopefully, in the next couple of years, I will have a couple big bats that I can get here and take advantage of the field. You know, Pitt Field, I know the ball can fly. New bats makes it a different game. Last year, we hit 8 home runs as a club. Texas, I think the year before, it had 5 or 6. But when I got to the regionals, they asked me, well, how are you going to play against Indiana? How are you going to play against Florida when you hit 8 home runs? Listen, if the wind's blowing out, we'll hit balls out too. But you got to perform. You got to be fundamentally sound, and that's what I expect out of my players. If it's your turn to get down a bunt, you got to get it down, and you got to make plays.